In our third year together, Ethan cheated on me. The underclassman sent me a taunting video. I turned off my phone and accepted my advisor's offer for an overseas exchange program. On the day of my departure, I had someone deliver a box to him. Inside was a shredded wishing ribbon and the dozens of love letters he had written to me when he was 17. On the back of each letter was my reply. Some thoughts about the future I had written in my spare time. That day, Ethan chased me to the airport like a madman. But I never once looked back. Always look forward. The 17-year-old Ethan had once told me. At the celebration banquet, after the competition, I received 2 messages on my phone at the same time. One was from Ethan, a check-in about his schedule, saying he had a club dinner that night. The other was from Clara, an underclassman from his club. It was a video of her sitting in Ethan's lap, kissing him passionately. Along with the video came a message. I have a lot more material like this. Would you like to see it, Senior? I didn't reply, but 5 minutes later, she sent me a link to a cloud drive. So much for childhood sweethearts. Before I clicked, I never imagined the contents would be so vulgar. A girl's coquettish moan. Senior, your girlfriend must be so boring in bed. A man's cold voice interrupted her. Who do you think you are? You have no right to talk about her. Don't you dare mention her to me. You're not worthy. The girl laughed, unfazed. Just kidding. Why so serious? I can give you what she can't. Do you like this dress? I have many more. You can take your time. Ripping them off. The man's voice was low and hoarse. Stop being a slut. You'll be crying later. I frantically exited the video, my hands trembling uncontrollably. Was that person really the Ethan I knew? I wanted to deny it, but as if torturing myself, I picked up my phone again and swiped through the videos one by one. They spanned a period of 6 months. The most recent one was from 3 days ago, a screen recording of the 2 of them. If I remember correctly, that was the day Ethan took me to his parents' house for dinner. Because his mother had prepared a separate room for me, we didn't stay together. So that day, with just a wall between us, he was chatting naked with someone else. I weakly put down my phone, my chest feeling as if it were being crushed by a giant rock. A tight, sour ache. The Ethan in my memory had bright eyes and a slight snaggletooth when he smiled. Every strand of his hair was imbued with a pure, clean, youthful energy. I simply couldn't connect these 2 people, yet they undeniably had the same face. In the 3 years I was with Ethan, I never doubted his sincerity. I never checked his phone, nor did I ever do surprise check-ins. I even disdained using the popular social media trends for testing a boyfriend's loyalty on him. I always believed that love didn't need to be tested. It would reveal itself in every detail. I considered myself slow and cautious when it came to relationships, but Ethan's love was always so passionate and sincere. When I was 15, my family fell apart. My father cheated, and his mistress got pregnant. After my parents divorced, neither of them wanted me. This burden. I still remember the rainy night my mother left. I ran after the taxi, begging her to take me with her, but she never looked back. Even long after the car's taillights had disappeared, I stubbornly kept running until I was exhausted and fell into a puddle. It was Ethan who found me, holding an umbrella. The boy's thin frame, holding the umbrella, swayed precariously in the wind and rain, but he moved it step by step until it was over my head. I cried and told him I had no home anymore. I will never forget the look in Ethan's eyes at that moment. A fire seemed to burn in those bright eyes. A fire that could melt ice and illuminate the darkness. Stella, you still have me. Through my soaked clothes, his scorching body temperature provided a source of warmth that felt as if it would never fade. After my parents left, I lived alone, responsible for my own tuition, study materials, and living expenses. I went to school during the day, organized my notes and a list of my mistakes, then had them photocopied and sold them online. The high school I attended was a top, Tier 1, and my grades were good. So many people were willing to buy my notes. Besides that, every day after school, I would collect the plastic water bottles in the classroom and take them home, selling them at a recycling station periodically. On weekends, I would work part-time jobs. I listened to English recordings while handing out flyers, memorized math formulas while making milk tea, and listened to the news the boss played while washing dishes. I seized every moment to earn money and study at the same time. I knew I had no way out. Studying was my only path. At first, some classmates would mock me, calling me shabby, saying my father had run off with another woman, abandoning his wife and daughter, and that I was an unwanted child. I tried to pretend I didn't care, but how could I truly not care? We were all the same age. They only had to focus on their studies, while I had to fight to support myself. But I had no time to argue with them. Just surviving and studying took all my energy. But every time, Ethan would stand up for me, usually in the simplest and most brutal way. Fighting. He'd fight anyone who said anything. The worst time, he broke someone's bone and received a disciplinary action. But he still comforted me. Don't listen to them. Stella, you are good. You are excellent and strong. Every moment you strive, you're shining. You just keep moving forward. I'll always be behind you, protecting you. Once, I fainted due to anemia. Ethan took me to the infirmary and stayed by my bedside all night, his eyes red from lack of sleep. After that, he insisted on bringing me meals every day, not letting me eat at the cafeteria. Fearing I wouldn't accept, he asked me to tutor him in exchange, saying he wanted to work hard to get into the same university as me. By then, Ethan's father had succeeded in his business, and his family was much better off than mine. I tried to keep my distance from him, but he always found a way to get closer. To give me snacks, he would buy them for the whole class. To collect empty bottles for me, he would bring back all the water bottles everyone finished after playing basketball. To let me rest more, he would pay people to walk back and forth near me, taking my flyers. He carefully protected my pride while fervently shielding me from the storms. For every step I took back, he took 101 steps forward. Eventually, he walked right up beside me, but he still cheated. Noticing I hadn't moved for a while, my senior colleague knocked on the stall door. Stella, are you okay? I came back to my senses and wiped my face. I'm fine. Coming out now. When I returned to the dinner, everyone had pretty much finished eating. We had to take the bus back to school the next day, so we didn't go for a second round. Before leaving, I told my advisor that I was willing to go abroad for the exchange program to lead a collaborative project. My advisor looked at me for a moment and asked why I had suddenly changed my mind. I thought about it. It wasn't really a change of mind, just the sudden realization that without that one person in my future, making any choice would be easier. 2 weeks ago, my advisor told me about an exchange spot in our department, a year abroad leading a collaborative project, and I could get directly admitted to the graduate program upon my return. I didn't agree immediately. Instead, I did a lot of research and prepared 2 proposals. At that time, I had subconsciously included Ethan in my future. I had planned to find a time to discuss it with him. If he supported me going abroad, we could do long distance for a year. I had marked out the time difference between the 2 countries and all the holidays we could see each other during that year. If he wanted me to stay, I wasn't dead set on going abroad. With my abilities, I could still apply for direct admission to a graduate program or take the entrance exam. There were plenty of good universities in the country. No path was a bad one. At that time, I always thought that as long as 2 people could be together, any difficulty could be overcome. We had walked through the darkest nights together. The path ahead would be smooth, but I forgot that a person's heart is always hidden under many layers. You can see the person in front of you, but you can't read their mind. Just as I was meticulously planning our future, his heart had already wandered away. So be it. The road ahead is long, and I will walk it alone. On the way back, my advisor told me she had secured me a spot in the selection interview for the exchange program and told me to prepare well for next week's interview. When my senior colleague heard I was thinking of going abroad, she laughed and teased. Stella, if you go abroad, will you be worried about your boyfriend cheating? I smiled, but said nothing. She thought my smile was confidence and sighed, talking to herself. Never mind. That was a stupid question. That perfectly devoted watchdog boyfriend of yours. I've never seen anyone more infatuated. How about this? Have him start a class sometime. I'll drag my boyfriend there to learn some male virtues. I still said nothing. The car was lively, and the topic quickly changed. I looked out the window, seeing my own dim silhouette in the passing scenery. In everyone's eyes, Ethan was an impeccable boyfriend. Handsome, rich, and fit. Most importantly, He never hid his love for me in any setting. During freshman military training, Ethan was on the school's confession page almost every day. Many bold girls would stop him and confess their feelings in public. Ethan got annoyed and had a black T-shirt custom made with 5 large words on the front and back. Taken. Don't bother. One winter during my freshman year, it suddenly started pouring rain in the middle of my class. I was standing in front of the building waiting for the rain to stop when I looked up and saw Ethan walking towards me with an umbrella. Even though he had a high fever, Ethan's temper wasn't exactly good. But he had never raised his voice at me. The angriest he ever got was when I was out tutoring and my phone died. So he couldn't reach me. He ended up showing up at my employer's door with 2 police officers. The moment he saw me, his legs almost gave out. On the way back, I promised him repeatedly that I would always keep my phone charged. I tried everything to appease him, but nothing worked. When I was at my wit's end, he suddenly took my hand and slapped himself twice. If something had happened to you, I would have hated myself for not contacting you sooner. I'm begging you, please don't go off the grid again. He pleaded with me, his eyes red. Under the dim streetlight, he offered me his whole heart. I believed that his love back then was real, but the later betrayal was also real. A true heart can change so quickly. The vibration of my phone pulled my thoughts back. I opened WeChat. It was a message from Clara. Senior, can we meet and talk? I didn't reply, and I had no intention of meeting her. When I was younger, every time I thought about my broken family and the arguments before they left, I would instinctively hate the third party. Later, I understood. While the third party who willingly degrades herself is detestable, the man who cheats is even more so. He wants the stability of his relationship while chasing excitement. In a relationship, whether his feelings change or the passion fades, he could have chosen a dignified end and a clean start, but they choose to deceive, to keep the other party in the dark, to let them be hurt by an affair. They enjoy the thrill of 2 women fighting over them, a sense of drama and chaos, and then top it off with gaslighting. I sought someone else because you weren't good enough. In such situations, people tend to focus on the third party, while the man remains in the shadows. In this unequal game, the man is the one who did wrong, but the woman is the one who gets hurt and bears the blame. How ridiculous. Whatever Clara's reason for contacting me, I didn't care. I wouldn't fight with her over a man, nor would I compare myself to her. I know where I came from, and I know where I'm going. The 15-year-old Stella, abandoned by her parents, could walk from darkness to dawn. The 21-year-old Stella, betrayed by her lover, still has the courage to start over. On the day I returned to school, Ethan came to pick me up. As usual, he brought me my favorite pastries. Even though that shop always had a half-hour line, he looked at me with the same gentle and affectionate gaze, without a single flaw, as if he had never done anything to wrong me. For the first time, I realized how good of an actor he was, and how well I could endure. I thought I would cry, that I would hysterically demand to know why it had to end this way, but I didn't. After discovering Ethan's infidelity, apart from that initial moment of despair and pain, I suddenly felt that nothing mattered anymore. Why he cheated, why he deceived me, why he hurt me, it was all meaningless. I didn't need to know the answers. Life is a long journey with countless passers-by. You should never let unworthy people trip you up. The roads I haven't walked, I will walk them myself. In the following days, I devoted myself entirely to preparing for the interview. Besides eating and sleeping, I spent almost all my time in the lab. It wasn't until after the interview, when I had successfully secured the spot abroad, that I realized Ethan and I hadn't spoken in days. This was probably the longest we had ever gone without contact. In the past, when I was busy, Ethan was always very understanding. He would quietly order me food delivery and leave me messages on WeChat to check in. This was the first time there had been complete silence. Just as I was thinking this, Ethan called. It was quiet on his end, only the sound of the wind whistling, which made his voice sound exceptionally clear. Stella, are you done with your work? I looked out the window at the dark night and replied softly, almost. Ethan, can we meet? I have something to tell you. He said he would wait for me at the sports field. I couldn't read his tone, nor did I know if he was aware that I knew about his cheating, but it seemed that didn't matter anymore. I grabbed my jacket and walked out. Before I reached the sports field, I received another message from Clara. A photo of Ethan's back. And a sentence. He just left my place. If you don't believe me, check the hood of his sweatshirt. You'll find a rhinestone that fell off my manicure. I still didn't reply, but it seemed she wasn't going to let me go. Senior, do you still want a man who's been tainted? I didn't want to get involved with Clara, but she kept provoking me, and I was getting impatient. What are you trying to say? This time, she sent me a voice message, her tone light and teasing. Senior, why don't you meet me? I have some interesting things to tell you. I walked forward, holding my phone. From a distance, I saw Ethan waiting at the entrance of the sports field. When he saw me, he took a few steps forward and, as usual, took my hand. Are you cold? I smiled and gently pulled my hand away. No. Ethan looked down at me for a moment. Stella, congratulations on getting the exchange spot. I was stunned for a moment. I hadn't told him about it. He saw my confusion and chuckled lightly. I overheard some people from your department talking about it when I was playing basketball. I know you've been busy preparing for the interview, so I didn't want to bother you. I've been thinking a lot these past few days, and I've been trying to adjust. I said nothing, just looked at him. When I first found out, I was a little angry and sad. I was afraid you hadn't thought about our future. But these past few days, I've come to understand. I know how hard you've worked to get here. I won't stand in your way of becoming a better version of yourself. I will always wait for you. I looked at Ethan. As he spoke, a subtle light flickered in his eyes, as sincere as when he was 17. For a moment, I couldn't tell how much of it was real and how much was fake. I suddenly reached out and hugged him. He thought I was moved and hugged me back even tighter. Stella, I will never give up on you. Never. Do whatever you want to do. I'll always be right behind you. As he said this, I found the rhinestone Clara had deliberately left in the hood of his sweatshirt. Its sharp edges pricked my fingertips, a fine, dense pain that spread all the way to my heart. How could someone feign such deep affection so convincingly? I tried hard to hold back the tears welling in my eyes and said softly, "You'll know the answer about the future soon enough. Before I go abroad, I have a gift for you." I lied to Ethan about my departure date. The day I left, he was taking his IELTS exam. He said he was preparing to visit me abroad in the future, and if I decided to stay there, he would follow me. Once, when I was joyfully planning our future, his heart was wandering. Now, as I planned to leave and never look back, he was desperately chasing that future. Between us, it was always a misalignment. The day I left, I went to North Park, where the city's most magical wishing tree stood. After graduating from high school, I accepted Ethan's confession under that tree. He had gotten a wishing ribbon and written a promise to love me forever. I remember Ethan tied the ribbon very tightly when he hung it up, saying that even 100 years of wind and rain wouldn't blow it away. But when I went that day, it came off into my hand with little effort. Perhaps it was fate. I looked at the strong, powerful handwriting on it and felt as if, across time, I could see that spirited young man again. The promise wasn't wrong, and the feelings at that moment were real. It's just that we shouldn't have so easily promised forever at an age when we didn't understand what forever meant. Back at the university, I found a small box. Inside were the dozens of love letters Ethan had written to me. Starting from our second year of high school, Ethan had written me many love letters, some his own words, some excerpts from love poems he had come across. He said he wanted to record every moment his heart fluttered because of me, so he could tell our children about them when we were old. We weren't even together then. Yet he spoke of a future so far away. I was a bit shy and scolded him for talking nonsense. He smiled, revealing the tips of his snaggletooth. "It will happen one day, sooner or later. Stella, we will be together. Forever." He was so confident, so earnest, that just listening to him made you believe that we might really have a future. Since my family fell apart and my parents abandoned me, for a long time I believed I would never fall in love with anyone. Even blood ties could be so easily cast aside. So what was love? With no guarantees. But Ethan was clearly an exception. When I was closed off, he was sincere. When I retreated, he advanced. When I was timid, he was brave. When my heart was cold, he was a blazing fire. He always had so many ways to seep into my heart. I thought, Ethan is different from everyone else. So I started writing back on the back of his love letters. His letters were disorganized, and my replies were just as casual. Sometimes, I would just jot down a fleeting image. This process felt like slowly building our future together. Dozens of love letters, all filled with my replies. I then took out new paper and started again. I thought I would give them to him on our wedding day. He would be so surprised. It's a pity we won't have a future. These ethereal fantasies of the future. These moments of a fluttering heart. I am returning them all to him. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Third-person POV. When Ethan came out of the exam, he suddenly missed Stella terribly. He thought it was because he couldn't bear for her to leave. Since she was going abroad the next day, he called her immediately, but her phone was off. A sudden, baseless panic seized him. They had promised each other never to be out of touch again. Ethan had a very bad feeling, but he didn't know where it came from. He rushed back to the university as fast as he could. At the foot of Stella's dormitory, he ran into her roommates. They asked him strangely, "She's going abroad today. Didn't you know?" In that instant, Ethan nearly collapsed. Stella had lied to him. She had left on her own. As for the reason, there was only one possibility. She knew everything. She knew about his betrayal, his deceit. This thought was confirmed when he received the small box. The red ribbon with the promise of a 17-year-old, which should have been hanging on the wishing tree, was now cut into pieces, lying quietly in the box. And beneath the pieces were the love letters he had once written to her. On the cover, in flamboyant script, it read, "To the ever-shining Stella." The 17-year-old Stella had accepted his heart. The 20-year-old Stella had returned all of his feelings. She was so resolute. Stella really didn't want him anymore. This conclusion made Ethan's heart ache to the point of suffocation. His vision went black, and the box slipped from his hands, scattering its contents on the ground. Ethan knelt down, frantically gathering the pieces and letters, then clutched the box and raced to the airport. He couldn't maintain an ounce of composure or dignity, desperately urging the driver to go faster. Faster. The driver, seeing his frantic state, called the police. He still didn't make it to the airport. Ethan fell seriously ill, running a fever for 3 consecutive days. When he woke up, he immediately called Clara. The sound of waves crashing against rocks could be heard on her end, making her tone sound particularly cheerful. "I told her." "So what?" "I just had to tell her what a cheating bastard you are." "Does a one-time thing not count as cheating? Stop pretending to be so devoted. You're not worthy." Clara yelled at him and then hung up. At that moment, Clara was in Sanya, hugging a male model and enjoying the sea breeze. There were 2 things Clara had lied to Stella about. First, she wasn't a student at Jiangxing University at all. She was just a girl who sold liquor at a club. Second, Ethan had only had a one-night stand with her. Clara had seen Ethan many times. He would often come to the club with a group of rich kids. They all had girlfriends and liked to order models. But he was the only one who would just have a few drinks and leave. Everyone laughed at him for being whipped, but he didn't care and even seemed proud of it. Clara remembered him and nicknamed him Mr. Devoted. One time, Ethan came to the club as usual with his friends, but it was clear he was agitated that day, constantly checking his phone. She heard he had had a fight with his girlfriend. A friend tried to persuade him not to be hung up on one person, using his twisted logic of living in the moment, and one time won't get you caught. Ethan got angry but still only drank. Later, as the party got wild, someone pushed Clara into Ethan's arms. He had drunk a lot, and in his hazy state, he pressed his lips against hers. Clara pushed him away, thinking he was drunk. But that night, Ethan took her to a hotel room upstairs. It was then that Clara realized he wasn't drunk. He knew exactly what he was doing. Clara sneered internally. So there was no Mr. Devoted in this world. Only animals who thought with their lower bodies. But she didn't refuse. Her manager had given her an ultimatum. If she didn't entertain clients, she couldn't even sell liquor anymore. Ethan was good, looking, and generous. It wasn't a bad deal for her first client. Afterward, Ethan gave her a huge sum of money to keep her mouth shut. Clara said, "Thank you, sugar daddy," while rolling her eyes internally. Ethan never contacted her again after that day. nor did he contact anyone else. He seemed to have reverted to being Mr. Devoted. But Clara knew that a tainted man was a tainted man. Once, Clara ran into Ethan at the supermarket and saw his girlfriend. Clara had met the girl before. Half a year ago, she had a fever and went out to buy medicine, but sprained her ankle and was cornered in an alley by a drunk thug. That girl happened to pass by and rushed in with a brick. She looked thin, but she was strong. She managed to carry her to the clinic. It was a small thing, and the girl had probably forgotten about it, so she didn't recognize Clara. But Clara remembered her. That day, after returning, Clara found a way to add her on WeChat, pretending to be an underclassman from Ethan's club. She didn't really know why she did it, so she didn't contact her for a long time after adding her. Later, Clara decided to quit her job and leave. She had a dream of opening a small shop by the sea, and she had saved up enough money. Before leaving, she dug up the video she had secretly filmed the night she slept with Ethan, planning to use it to blackmail him and then disappear. But before she sent it, she changed her mind. On her last day of work, she sat in Ethan's lap, kissed him passionately, and had someone film it. She was quickly pushed away by Ethan, who looked angry and disgusted, like a chase man who had been defiled. Clara left with a smile and then sent the video to Stella, taunting her in the guise of a mistress. Besides the video of the kiss, Clara also created a file package. Inside, apart from the one real video, the rest were all AI face swapped. As for their authenticity, she wasn't worried that Stella wouldn't believe her. After all, people in distress don't turn into Sherlock Holmes, especially when they've already seen something real. Clara did all this for a simple reason. In her eyes, cheating once was no different from cheating multiple times. But she wanted to provoke Stella into leaving Ethan. She felt that Ethan didn't deserve Stella, but she didn't expect Stella not to react at all, completely ignoring her. Clara had nothing left to use. She tried to arrange a meeting, but there was no response. Clara couldn't be bothered anymore. Before she left for good, she sent the video to Ethan to blackmail him. That day, Ethan came to get the phone from her and to confirm she had no more copies. On a whim, she went up and hugged him, taking the opportunity to pull a rhinestone off her manicure and drop it into his hood. She was betting that Ethan would go find Stella. That's what cheaters do. After doing something wrong, they always try to compensate the victim in some way. And Ethan liked Stella so much. He was probably regretting it to his core. But what was the use? A betrayal is a betrayal. Once is no different from countless times. After Ethan left, she timed her last contact with Stella. But Stella was completely unwilling to see her. She didn't curse. She wasn't angry. She just left a message. "Stop bothering me with your sordid affairs," and blocked Clara. Later, Clara heard that Stella was preparing to study abroad. She thought about it and guessed that Stella would dump Ethan. After all, someone who could smash a thug with a brick would never swallow such an insult. Poor Ethan. Still thinking Stella didn't know. Still planning to go abroad with her. A person as exceptional as Stella. Once you lose her forever. He didn't cherish her. He deserved it. When you truly love someone, you never take chances. In this world, cheating happens either 0 times or countless times. Clara put down her phone and continued to sunbathe. She felt no shame for her lack of integrity. She had grown up in the mud. A person with no quality, no morals, and no conscience. All she cared about was money. I had already turned off my phone before the plane took off. There were no important messages I had to see. I had been busy for a long time, and my mind and body were exhausted. I leaned back in my seat, closed my eyes, and fell asleep without realizing it. In a daze, I dreamed of the winter break of my sophomore year of high school. At that time, I refused to ask my parents for help and instead worked part-time jobs to save money. I worked 3 jobs a day. Cashier at a convenience store in the morning, working at a milk tea shop in the afternoon, and tutoring at night. The tutoring job wasn't far, but the winter days were short, and it was always dark by the time I went home. Ethan was worried and would pick me up every day from my tutoring job. There was a small alley with dim yellow lights that always stretched his shadow long, so I could see him waiting from far away. We would take the bus together, listening to music quietly. The half-hour ride was the most relaxing part of my day. Ethan no longer lived in the neighborhood. He would always take me home first before going back to his own house. One day, I was ambushed the moment I entered my house. Someone had hidden inside. I struggled desperately, but I was no match for the strength of an adult man. I was dragged to the bed, and he pinned down my hands and feet. I tried to bite him, and he slapped me twice, making my head spin. I had worked all day and was exhausted, but I still fought with all my might. In the struggle, my phone was thrown out, and I saw the screen light up. It was a call from Ethan. I desperately tried to reach for the phone but was pulled back. Just as my clothes were half torn off, Ethan suddenly returned. He practically lifted the man off me with one hand and threw him out. Along with him, the 2 roasted corns he had just bought also fell to the ground. The 17-year-old Ethan was tall and strong. Standing in front of me, he seemed to block out all the darkness. He took off his jacket and wrapped it around me. His eyes were red, and his hands trembled. It wasn't his fault, yet he kept saying he was sorry. From then on, Ethan demanded that my phone always be reachable, and every night when I got home, he would go in and check first, making sure there was nowhere to hide, before letting me lock the door from the inside. He would then stand outside for a while before leaving. He did this no matter the weather. At that time, even the biting winter wind couldn't extinguish the boy's passion. His gaze was a fervent flame, my source of heat, seemingly inextinguishable. The day I received my university acceptance letter, Ethan bought a bouquet of flowers and confessed his love to me. The usually carefree person was trembling as he held the flowers, stammering through his words 3 times. His eyes were so bright, like a starry sky, with all the stars twinkling within. Stella, just like this. Keep moving forward. Don't look back. The best scenery in life is ahead. I will always be behind you. I woke up from the dream, my face wet with tears. The boy's clear voice seemed to still be ringing in my ears. I picked up my luggage and went aboard the plane. Someone next to me accidentally dropped their headphones, and music slowly filled the air. The autumn wind begins to blow. A homecoming song for the clouds. For a reunion. Traveling 1,000 miles. It is fated that someone will be absent in the future, but it's good that I once loved you deeply. End of story. Epilogue. Ethan's POV. At 29, Ethan was diagnosed with late-stage liver cancer. The doctor said he didn't have much time left and should fulfill any lingering wishes. That day, Ethan sat in his bedroom all night. Just before dawn, he got up and took a box from the other bedside table. This was the box Stella had asked someone to give him when she went abroad. The shredded wishing ribbon inside had been pieced back together by him. Although some pieces were missing, the words were still legible. Ethan loves Stella. For all eternity. The handwriting was firm and fluid, just like his state of mind when he had written it. So unwavering. But he hadn't kept his promise. He had been blinded by the temptations of the world. And, for a moment of thrill, he had stepped into an abyss. He was the one who had pushed her away. He knew how many obstacles Stella had overcome to be with him, but he hadn't cherished it. For the past 8 years, he had lived every second in regret. Countless times he had replayed that night in his mind, each time wishing he could go back and stab himself. How could he have been so foolishly optimistic? How could he have dared to be? Stella was such a clear-headed and proud person. After being abandoned by her parents, she would rather eat half a steamed bun for a meal than go back and beg them. How could she possibly forgive his infidelity? He had forgotten. Stella never looked back. Ethan's eyes stung. He took out the letters from the box one by one and opened them. Before he got the box, he never knew that she had replied on the back of every single letter. She had originally planned to give him these letters on their wedding day, but the day he received them was the day they parted. Stella didn't want him anymore. Ethan looked at the elegant handwriting on the back and could imagine her writing these words. Her expression soft, a slight smile on her lips. She had seriously planned him into her future, writing down her dreams for them, sentence by sentence. From the layout of the house, the color of the curtains, the height of the bookshelf, to the cushion on the bay window and the name of their kitten. She had thought of everything in such detail. Just reading the words conjured up images so beautiful they were like a dream. So she had once so seriously wanted a future with him. He was the one who didn't cherish it. They say that those who betray a true heart must swallow 1,000 silver needles. So, his retribution had come early. Before dawn, Ethan sent Stella an email, telling her about his late-stage cancer and asking if they could meet one last time. After Stella went abroad 8 years ago, she never came back. She was supposed to return for her graduate studies, but her project was so successful that an opportunity came up, and she stayed. Stella was always so clear-headed. She always knew what she wanted and was always striving forward. But he was forever stuck 8 years ago. On the day she left, that evening, he received a reply from her. She said she would be back in 2 days. At that moment, Ethan was filled with relief. She was still willing to see him. The day he went to pick her up, he spent a long time choosing his clothes and styled his hair over and over again. But his increasingly thin frame couldn't hide his sickly appearance. He stood waiting in the wind that day, as if transported back to the winter of his sophomore year of high school, when he would stand at the entrance of the alley every day, waiting for Stella to finish her tutoring so they could go home together. The wind was just as cold then. He would lean against the wall, writing love letters on his phone. His heart was on fire then, and the cold wind couldn't extinguish his passion. Just as Ethan was lost in thought, Stella appeared. 8 years had passed. She was a bit thinner, with curled hair and light makeup. She looked a little tired, but she was still as radiant as ever. He finally said the words, "Long time no see." On the way to the hotel, Stella asked about his condition and encouraged him to cooperate with the treatment. Ethan knew he was at the end of his rope, but her words were always comforting. He smiled and said okay. Stella didn't have a long vacation. She could only stay for 3 days, but it was enough. These 3 days were a gift from heaven. They were like old friends who hadn't seen each other in years. They went back to their university, ate at their favorite snack stalls, and looked at the renovated streets. 8 years was enough to change most of a city's old appearance. They walked on the same roads, but they could no longer find any trace of the past. Time changes everything. At that moment, Ethan felt it deeply. The next day, they went to visit their high school math teacher, a very kind woman who had helped Stella a lot. When they were in school, she often gave Stella brand new textbooks and would occasionally cook meat dishes for her to take home. Stella remembered all of it and had specially brought a shoulder and neck massager for her from abroad. When they were leaving, the teacher said many blessings to them, thinking they were still together. Ethan spoke first and thanked her. Stella remained silent. After leaving the teacher's house, Ethan called out to Stella. He wanted to ask if they would be married now if he hadn't lost his mind and made that mistake. Would they have, as she had imagined, light green curtains and a cat named Star? But he didn't ask. Stella's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID, said sorry, and stepped aside to answer the phone. When she came back, she looked a little apologetic. "I might have to go back tomorrow. My boyfriend fell down the stairs and broke his leg. I have to go see him." At that moment, Ethan couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. He only felt a sour tightness in his chest and a bitter taste in his throat. He still didn't ask that question. Instead, he asked, "Stella, do you still hate me?" Stella paused for a moment, then smiled. "Ethan, I never hated you. The rights and wrongs in a relationship don't erase the warmth and strength you once gave me. It's true that I was sad and heartbroken at the time, but after all these years, looking back, I'm still very grateful to you. Thank you for the umbrella you held for me. Thank you for standing behind me so firmly and fearlessly during my insecure and sensitive teenage years. Thank you for healing me countless times when I was beaten down by life. And thank you for walking with me for so long." The 17-year-old Ethan would always be a light in Stella's life, illuminating her lonely star in the darkest night. Ethan's eyes turned red as he watched Stella speak every word of gratitude with clear eyes, candid and at peace. Stella hadn't changed. She was always willing to remember the kindness of others. The day Stella left, she asked him for his medical records, saying she would ask some doctor friends she knew when she got back. She stood at the airport entrance, the breeze ruffling her hair, making her look gentle. "Ethan, get well. Everything will be okay." Even though she had been hurt so deeply, and had left so resolutely, her last words to him were still words of encouragement. After Stella returned, she sent him a contact card. She didn't get involved in any of the subsequent doctor recommendations or hospital arrangements. Later, Ethan learned that the person was her boyfriend. He didn't know if it was his imagination, But it seemed that ever since he had added him, his social media feed was updated much more frequently, and every post was about Stella. Her putting on makeup in the morning, her curled up on the sofa reading a book, her playing with their kitten, and her accepting his proposal. Ethan knew he was silently showing off and declaring his ownership. Men understood men's minds best. After all, he used to do the same thing. He had always known how dazzling Stella was. Every moment they were together, he wanted to announce it to the world. That's why he had insisted on bringing her an umbrella when he had a fever of 102, and why he had felt a secret thrill when he walked through the crowd with his arm around her. A star as bright as her. After he lost her, many would rush to have her. But he was happy. Happy for her happiness. Ethan was admitted to the hospital. His body's functions were gradually declining, and his life was slipping away day by day. In his final days, he held that box, opening and reading the letters inside many times a day. He savored every scene she described, trying to build a fantasy for himself. 2 months later, Stella received the obituary for his death. She stood by the window for a long time that day. Finally, someone draped a coat over her shoulders. That night, Stella had a dream. In the dream, there was the 17-year-old Ethan. She came out from her tutoring job, and Ethan was standing at the entrance of the alley, the dim yellow light stretching his shadow long. As she approached, he pulled a lollipop from his pocket. He smiled, his eyes crinkling, revealing a hint of his snaggletooth. He reached out and gently ruffled her hair. "Good job today, Stella,"